I ended
The top of every mountain is the bottom of another. The top of every mountain is the bottom of another. Run for cover, you discover some will thrive and others suffer. Cause the top of every mountain is the bottom of another. Ooh, don't wait, don't hesitate. Better speak the truth, let it resonate and let it detonate and get blown away. Till you keep on rising to a higher place. Can't stop, won't stop, don't stop coming till we hit the top. Gotta keep pushing till the day I make it. Since they won't give it to me, then I got to take it. The pain today is power tomorrow. Keep on coming, but you'll never catch me running. Cause I won't bow down. No matter what they say, I wouldn't do it any other way. Keep on coming, but you'll never catch me running. Cause I won't bow down. Top of every mountain is the bottom of another. The top of every mountain is the bottom of another. Not enough, they keep us smothered. Lower class, never the upper. Cause the top of every mountain is the bottom of.
Well, hello there tonight. Good evening, you and Spacey Wolf Squadron. This is your Wolf Commander Wolf 10. I'm your werewolf, and we are continuing Dom's special four-parter, known as the Communication four-parter. We're here as the Real Millennials tonight, and starting with the man of the hour himself, the Hound of Saldonic Power.
Good evening. Good evening, morning, or afternoon, everyone. This is the Hound of Saldonic Power, and welcome to part 3 of 4 of the Communications quadrilogy, where this time we're dealing with written communication, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
We have the master of such communication, the humble Zariah's Humble Marty.
Hello, I am Humble Marty. I write books and I make my own book covers.
That is so true. We have also the Snarky Darky, the Stranger Danger, the Dark Stranger.
Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Thank you for having me again.
So, written communication. Dom, lay it on us.
Well, what can I say? Written communication says exactly on the tin, right?
Yeah.
Well, you gotta not only be able to how to read, but also like understand what's being conveyed in the text, and also like what is also from subtitles. Subtitles when you're watching anything like outside the States. Really, what makes written communication work is not only is what is being conveyed to the audience is done effectively, but it's done in a way where it's concise and not pontificated or flowery. It gets straight to the point. But also you want the writing to be creative, right?
Mm-hmm.
Depending on the text and what you're getting at.
Of course. Yeah, of course. Well, nowadays, as time went by, between the late 2000s and the early 2010s and onwards, it's been hit or miss and a decline of written communication. But we will touch on that later in this episode. So, because first we're going to talk about like the good examples of written communication. Who wants to go first?
Good examples of written communication. Good examples of written communication I have grown up with was the Redwall novels, mystery stories.
I think I'll take the lead real quick.
Yeah.
I would say what he's asking about when it comes to examples of written communication is the fact that when you are visually connecting it through through reading the words, as the words are formed to show, and as one would as one reads, they paint a picture of what is read. And such examples, like say for instance, there's a stream before me. Now, most people might not know what a stream looks like, or they do, and if they do, they know what a stream looks like, and they'll say, okay, there's a stream in front of him. You know, that's one way of saying it. It's like there's a stream in front of me, but there's a stream before me. Or you could say the fluids within his body streamed along his side ever so slowly, which would communicate that there is general fluids oozing out of a wound. Or in the case of your erotic fiction, I felt his warm breath touch my skin, and that's spoken in the first person, of course. You know, and we
Mm-hmm.
can easily visualize that as a man or a woman, or a man to a man breathing on one's skin.
Or a woman on a woman.
Wow, we're
Negro.
going there.
The skin on skin lateral tango.
The
Negro,
rubbing,
this ain't San
Ten
Francisco.
toes
supporting.
went north, 10 toes went south.
You got the touch, you got the power.
Now, if you're talking about naming some names that had great visual communication, of course, yes, the Red Wall series, and yes, Hate, Dracula does count. Same thing with Frankenstein. Basically, old literature, of course, with their prose and their turns of phrases and old language, as I like to call it, or old speak.
Mm-hmm. Like even like modern examples, like Hugo, which people are recognized as the movie Martin Scorsese made, but it's an adaptation of a book, but not a regular one, but rather an illustrated novel. Because not only did the author had used eh, use effective written communication to really bring the work to life, but in several pages where it contains an illustration, it helps to capture what is happening within the book.
Mm.
There's also spoken visual communication where if you know how the punctuations work, you can visualize that the person's asking a question, or having a verbal explanative, or say a verbal exclamation as well. You know, he asked or questioned. He uh he explained or exclaimed, things of around that. But the truth, but the point being is the fact that we're coming across a day and age where even that's almost a lost art.
Eh,
Yeah, but not only that, but also people's reading stamina has greatly declined as time went by.
True.
Now, I'm also speaking on mostly the verbal visual communication, but we're also doing visual as well. So let's just say art, for example. In the case of pinup art, or I went there, didn't I?
Yes, you
Or
did.
say movie posters, or even a book cover. There's always
Or
the visuals
paintings.
that what?
Or good old black and white with subtitling. You know,
Mm-hmm.
got those free frames or whatever, and then you got the text.
Hmm.
The video game Concord
Hmm.
was
Yeah.
terrible written communication.
Save it for later.
Ah,
But we're
yes.
still on, yeah, we're still on the written communication, of course.
Yeah.
Well,
But there's
good.
still,
Well, good
but
examples that is.
but there's still some written communication there too, as well. Like in the old movie posters of old, where
Mm-hmm.
they have these almost walls of texts, big text, to be
Mm.
example.
Mm-hmm. Like
Just hyping up
them
the
from
movie
the
so much.
1950s. Yep.
Hmm?
No, I'm bringing up like the monster movie Them with the giant ants
Mm-hmm.
and the Blob.
Or Godzilla.
Or the thriller books, like they've done a new book that was done by Michael Crichton. It was a volcano book,
Mm.
You don't
What's
and
say.
yeah, and it actually had a really good cover on it
she's not wrong.
because the book covers are not just advertising the book, but what genre it's in. There
Mm-hmm.
was one other comic that was in there, and this is how I know it's not really good to me or my taste because I don't remember the cover. I looked at it, I thought it was a cover for a romance book. It turned out to be a yoi cover.
Oh.
And the only thing I remember out of it was hairy legs. And I know it was supposed to be one of those sweet stories because of the art style and the general direction, but you put it up next to the um, the romance stories done by Daniel Steele or Nora. Yeah, especially the Nora Roberts stories. You stick it next to those, and then some of the ones that have like the flat romance story book covers. It blended right in. It you couldn't even tell it was a comic book. But Dog Man, all the kids bought Dog Man because it had the same art style as Captain Underpants.
Mm-hmm. Or well, the Animorph series. What this book covers was the moment when you see the character, each of the major characters like transforming into their different animal forms, be it the battle morphs or otherwise. I was like, it not only got them interested, but the taglines. The taglines of each of the covers like helps inform them of what the book is about, what genre is in, and and it gives them a tease of what's inside the text.
It also helped that what was on the cover was also expressed on what was in the book. Like, for example, another good hello Echo. Another good example of a good book cover was in the one that was called "Just Stab Me Now" by Jill Barrett. Hers
Bill
was
Barrett.
yeah, Jill Barrett. She does a YouTube channel usually talking
Yeah,
about
I'm familiar
swords.
with her.
Yes, and she had a bunch of popular shorts of an author who's basically talking through the storyline with her main character. And it was funny because you had the story, you had the fancy fantasy book cover, and then the little sticky notes that were usually thumbnails for like the report for the rough draft and stuff, just to mark the relationship between the author and the character.
Mm-hmm. And Dark.
Hmm?
Yeah, would you like to go next?
Written communication. Well, it's a time old thing. The power of it, well, is just that, the power of how well you word it and the meaning behind it.
And also
Uh,
imagination.
Again, depending on the context of what the text is pertaining to. You don't want it to be too imaginative in some things. Like, for example, one thing that stands well, it's, as you guys been going on the more fictional avenue, let's try something like this. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation.
Oh my gosh, that was like the beginning of the comic.
Nice.
Okay, there was a werecat themed period comic that was supposed to be based on puberty, but it was just nothing but feminism.
Mm.
Oof.
But this, what I just started there's a whole lot. I'm not going to read all of it. But that was just the start of the July 4th, 1776 United 13 Colonies Declaration of Independence.
Ooh.
And that's yeah, and I recognized it immediately the moment he started started uttering those words.
Of course, the next
Yes.
paragraphs you probably hear more often, like, we hold these truths to be self evident that all men are created equal, that
Mm-hmm.
they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought that was the first paragraph, but then again, you gotta keep in the lawyer speak.
But yeah, it's not imaginative or anything. They're just explaining through this text, the what the 13 colonies, the then 13 colonies, had in unison in mind in regards
Mm-hmm.
to the British rule and so on, and declaring their separation. And these words, of course, had power. They spoke to the people that
Yeah.
united them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, they all.
It's connected to universal values as well as objective truths.
Yeah, I've
yeah, and
noticed it also targeted another thing needed for the lawmaking specifics.
hmm
Yep.
Like, for example, a bad decision that someone tried to vote in at one point was trying to make all the pronouns for the laws gender neutral,
hmm
which
Mm-hmm.
is a very bad idea because the
Yep.
term they is not just a person, it is also a group,
hmm
Yep.
and whatever could get used on the person you don't like can also end up getting used on you.
hmm But what also makes this is very good is you think back at that time, the 13 colonies, how separated they were. Most most of the people who signed these, yeah, some they probably got voted in and all that for as representation. Of course, a lot of them were also the wealthy elites of that time because they owned the businesses, the
Oh,
trades.
most
Yeah,
of them
this
were young too. They were like around Gen Z's current age.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and most people never even really saw these people or interacted with them. They don't know how they talked, what they looked like.
Or the
So
values.
this text, these words, you know, the power behind them to unite and never really know or understand those who writ them. That's a very good example of written communication.
As following up on that, of course, JFK's like famous speech, ask not what you
Well, that was TV and people could see that.
yeah, but yeah, but adding, but mixing the well, yes, audio, but also visual and the written communication, like Kennedy's speech, like also like have, like still has power, or because it much like with the formation with the Declaration of Independence and the original 13 colonies, and it was done like to unite people and like to showcase how far like the United States has come like ever since its formation from the War of Independence and the Civil War.
There's yeah, and even written communication even denotes like different voices of different characters, like their way of speaking. You have
hmm
to like for example, you'd have to change the grammar to Yeah, like you have to change the grammar to show different accents, but also don't change it so much that the reader can't understand what they're reading.
Hmm.
Like for example, Nightcrawler has a German accent,
So, no,
so
it will make sense that
yeah, it,
says
it
like
does.
in novel form or of course sequential art, i.e. comics, it was like writers are like consistently like written his dialogue with a heavy German accent, but but it is comprehensible.
Mm. Yeah, the other part I remembered was the Western comics are a lot more focused on dialogue-driven action than the
Then
manga.
yeah, in Eastern storytelling, telling they're not well, it's not to say like they're not. It doesn't disregard dialogue, but it doesn't have a heavy emphasis than here in the West.
It does also note like how some of the Japanese have held some conversations, like when they would hint at something instead of like the whole full on sentence, which I kind of got that from I got that from scrolling through a bunch of the Japanese culture YouTube shorts for funsies. So now we know where my attention goes.
Well, we understand. Yeah, but well, obviously, like to briefly go back to Kennedy's speech. So of course, like it is. Yeah, not only does it still hold up, but it really touches on again, like much like with the original with the document with of the 13 colonies and the Declaration of Independence. It contains universal values and objective truths that unites people, and all. Not to mention, it does like it helps to convey, like what he said of ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country, because like when America was formed, well, like it's the government, that serves the people and listens to them, not the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
But another example, well, yeah, no, it is fascinating with how creators, whether in the West and the East, is like how they like construct dialogue. But even like in Japan and even South Korea, like they also like, make sure to keep the have the characters distinct from one another by having the dialectics and their accents help indicate where they are. So like for instance, like if a if a character like in a manga or a light novel like has a southern drawl like they originate from Osaka, which is Japan's answer to Texas, or even, or like another example like Sam Guthrie, the Cannonball from Marvel Comics, like he's from the Appalachia, so he also has an accent. He has a southern accent as well, but it's a different dialectic than say let's say Rogue Anna Marie's like southern drawl, who's also like from that part of America.
Yeah, it's also been, and this is the more fun part with the written communication. It has also been a fun way to find new ways of creative cursing
Yeah, you got that
because
right.
you're
Speaking on
not
the swears,
supposed to say the C word on a kids show, but Transformers Prime got away with saying the word scrap a lot.
speaking of swear words, have you ever guys noticed that modern writers have no idea of what swearing was like way back when,
They
Um,
really have no idea.
especially in different regions across the world?
They have a they have not only it's narrow minded but have an immature view on it.
I'll give
It
Castlevania as one prime example. The Netflix TV series, the fact that they're swearing like people of today, was very jarring to say the least. And I'm like, I'm sure some of these words did exist, but to what capacity did they start saying a lot of?
wait, where was Castlevania supposed to be set in, historically speaking?
Historically speaking, the 900s
Nine
or
hundreds,
In
700s.
700s.
700s, medieval Europe, and immediately, like when you look back at the Castlevania series, animated series in hindsight, it's not going to age well because
Eh,
if you're because yeah, while the Castlevania series does start out in the medieval era all the way to the present and the future, but when it's set in the past, because you want to make sure that it's authentic to how people actually spoke to each other back then.
People spoke in complete sentences back then.
Yes,
Mm,
and they don't swear like sailors.
the problem
No,
is, this is also another problem where everybody's just taking notes off of Game of Thrones because
Hmm.
I never watched the series, but I've seen the clips, and
or or read the
they all
book.
have that kind of same talk and dirty mouth style. It's
no wonder I never got into that show.
Yeah, the book. While even though it is an adaptation like of the book series, it didn't even the book series like didn't do not just fantasy any favors, but how most of today's
Focus.
writers approach dialogue.
but the a lot of them and how that show handled and everything it's polluted where people are taking notes off of how to use that as a communication for
Mm.
cussing and stuff. It's pretty much like they thought Farber, played by Shia LaBeouf from the 2004 iRobot, was the prime example of what you should do when you cuss. He's being called out for, you do not know how to cuss. Shut up.
Well, it's more. Well, the accurate quote is, "Stop cussing. You're not good at it."
Well, yes, exactly. Probably one of the only few good things you could quote a Will Smith on.
The one it's actually a lot different than what you'd see in Castlevania. I know because the one example I have was a knitting blogger who wrote an entire Shakespearean poem about underpants.
And where I'm getting at when highlighting that fact, it's really to really show that the show has absolutely no way of differentiating characters from the way they speak when they all speak the exact same way, just throwing f bombs and s bombs, and even going as far as to even talking in such gratuitous eroticism or
Uh,
or uh or porn language, as I would like to call it. You know, I'm
And
just
this
thinking
isn't
like,
just limited to like the medieval adaptations of like a Europe or anything, because you and I watched Prey that one night, and
Yep,
you
I
could tell
remember
with the
that.
Native Americans, they were kind of just speaking more like suburban or city like people.
hmm
Yeah, instead of really talk, talking as the talking a- as if they are really from the frontier era.
Mm, the 1600s, I think that was
Yes,
in.
1600s.
Yeah.
well, the thing is, the point being is that the modern writers have absolutely, they don't do enough research to really, or they don't do no research at all and just go straight with it and just pretend like they can throw in some itty bitty little tidbits of what the language could possibly be, but throwing in their modern talk all the same, just to fill in the blanks. Like like say for instance, Jurassic Park in the cloning process with with the genetic coding. You know, there's it's like you're looking at broken bits of DNA and you're fitting it in with other DNA that's a bit modern that hopefully will take right.
Well,
Hmm.
yeah, but instead of frog DNA, it's something else.
Mm. And in the case of frog DNA, it pretty much mutates or rather biologically recombinate the DNA.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, they're just mixing in things and hope that it just blends in and hope and just think that we're not gonna notice. I
I
mean,
like
yeah,
how
Well,
sure.
Jurassic World became like the Wes Anderson Resident Evils, where it took up cloning, turned it up to 11, and let's make monsters by making clones and mixing whatever we can into it, and saying, "Yep,
mm-hmm.
we call that a day."
Now the funniest one is Beelzebulfo. Not Beelzebulfo, but I think he was supposed to be D-Rex, but he looks like he's got the face of a whale, itty bitty arms for nipples, and then these long forearms that he's supposed to put his weight on, but all his weight's on these back elephantine hind legs, and he's got his tippy toes on these long stalks for arms.
Yeah, he looks like the thing from Star Wars, or somebody also pointed this out. He
Rancor.
looked like I forget what its name is. It starts with an O, but the creature from the saucer in Godzilla 2000 after it absorbed some
Orga.
Godzilla cells. Yeah,
Or
Orga,
got
and you got that kind of malformed look, but it's got those long forearms, that longish whale-like head.
Yeah, it kind of does look like that.
yeah.
Older
But
swearing
going back
is
to the old
descriptive
speak
sometimes.
and the old language, you know, a lot of people really it's completely just ignored or just outright just not utilized, and people will go on forever not knowing that language. There's multiple ways of insulting somebody in such a great capacity. You know,
And a key word to that, one thing they don't really understand is with words that we kind of can brush over with this one word, ornate. A lot of the words they use in insult or some kind of a gesture were ornate. It You wouldn't really know it was an insult unless you understood what those unique words really meant and how they were used.
Oh, that is true.
Mm-hmm.
We just live at a time where we really dumbed down and simplified language.
hmm
Oh, if George Carlin was alive today, he'll have a field day.
oh, I bet. And the only people that kind of still does it is the old speak in ways is the British, and probably many others else like in maybe Brazil or the Philippines. You know, they
Yeah.
they've gone ways. They go to great lengths to insult people. You know,
The the
form of fashion.
yeah, it's true. Or you have the southern country euphemisms that three words could mean more than one thing, and you have to literally think through the context of the situation to see what they mean.
I was look. I was remember watching the Northmen, and yeah, they have some of the swear words that we use currently today in modern speech, but rarely do they ever crop up ever. It's like Omelette one time calls his mom a bitch for a good reason, or you don't really hear him say fuck or dick. They say cock maybe, but it's rare when they say it like a sailor would multiple times ad nauseum or you're keeping score of how many times it's being said, right?
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
In the case
Some of
of Beowulf, the 3D one, that
mm,
that movie, you know, it was hardly an existence of it. And yes, sure, it's you know I came upon a few comments. One comment stood out to me when looking at the God of War Ragnarok video clips, and just hearing Asgard, Asgard, the Norse gods swearing like modern people really just made me cringe every single time. And I come upon this comment where this person said, paraphrasing, said to the effect of, I really do like that they have them, swearing the way they do, instead of just these very, instead of like in the old games where they had this very the way they speak there, because it's so much easier to read.
Oh,
And I was like,
yes,
oh my goodness,
no,
look at the world we're heading to, where people wants everything to be so simplified
man, man.
that
I remember, I remember,
Mm,
like back in elementary school. So my classmates and I, we actually study like like old English, even in like on in middle school when we were reading Shakespeare.
I'm at the point where I really would like for to happen upon a movie. Maybe they are around. They're probably. I just probably just gotta keep looking, you know, because I don't give up on stuff like this. You guys know me, but I would like to come upon a movie of today where no matter what they're using a sort of Shakespearean form of talking, much like in say Gargoyles
Even
or
sleep, even the TV series Sleepy Hollow.
or
Like
hell, Vampire
Ichabod,
Hunter
like
D. If you
yeah,
watch it dub.
Just not with Leonardo DiCaprio.
my favorite version of my favorite version of Shakespearean dialogue was from 80 Tank Police English dub. They had one Christian guy in there, and he spoke just like he read in the King James Bible,
oh yeah, I remember that.
and he was one of the supportive good guys.
Even though he was totally in with Branton's shenanigans with like putting a grenade in a criminal's mouth just to get him to talk.
Yes, he was the paladin of the group. I'm not
Oh,
murdering people. I'm sending them to God.
oh man,
You say that, brother. You can say that again.
yeah, yeah. No, just well, since we're bringing up Shakespeare, like, does it bother you guys that as time went by, like education, like it's been like schools over here, like they start to like not only downplay Shakespeare but also like his works.
They're believing that study that he apparently plagiarized a lot of stories. Now he's no longer somebody to study, worthy of studying. I'm sorry,
which
but
which
no.
is bull crap. It's not just Shakespeare, but all the other like classic like poets and writers from back in the day. They like some people of Gen Z and even Gen Alpha, like they genuinely believe like these people feel like no longer have any value for anyone to study.
They say that now and learn the hard way later.
Like at least
And don't
like back then, like in Gen with Gen X and our generation, like the millennial and even like early Gen Z, when 97 and the early mid 2000s, there was still like respect to classic literature, not limited to Shakespeare.
and don't take this as us not wanting swear words in our story or fiction of any kind. What I'm saying is, you know, even 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 with swear words in fiction or any kind of writing back in the days, there was creative ways of utilizing it. Like, remember when I talked about Bulletstorm,
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
the game Bulletstorm, and I remember in our conversation, Final was shocked at how I described it. I was like, bro, after playing Bulletstorm, my vocabulary updated itself. There's not,
Or heck, look at
where
Lobo
I'm going
from
with
DC
this is the
Comics.
fact that I'm not completely opposed to swearing in media per se. It's just it's so easy now to start writing it. Like there's absolutely no decorum anymore, no class.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's more roughy and less classy of a person, you know.
It's amateurish.
Very.
I mean,
I mean,
another
hell,
example of creative cursing
Bulletstorm.
is
Hang on, Don. Bulletstorm is where I learned the phrase murder boner.
We are erected with rage. Sorry.
Now, if I may, real quick, there is one thing we haven't really hit on when it comes to written communication,
Hmm.
and I'm not a religious person, but it should be noted that yes, religion, the books and the text
Hmm.
of, I mean, I know the Christian angle is this book is the one that did it all. It's the foundation. But then you also got like stone tablets and texts of other civilizations and stuff that, yeah, but that all side, religion had a very phenomenal effect,
mm-hmm.
positive and negative depending on your
Hmm.
view, sacrifices and stuff, on societies. And
Both.
most of that was through what was written down and passed along.
It is a bit of both
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
because from the Greeks, you did get the Aesop's Fables.
Mm,
From the Christians, you did get the Ten Commandments and the Beatitudes, which were blessed are the poor in spirit, blessed are those who who mourn, for they will be comforted. And the Beatitudes, yeah, those were just called the Beatitudes. And I don't know exactly what Islam brought in exactly because,
goats.
well, yeah, goats
Well,
and lots of warrior imagery. But the one
yeah.
thing that they're more known for is their depictions of textiles and their designs because you're not allowed to show God in the temple.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yet there is also another one which I kind of could forget about is Buddhism was also one of the other. Buddhism was the one that had also spread a lot in the East, and it first came from India, and then it made its mainstay in like China or Japan. And Shinto,
And Korea.
yeah, and Korea. And Shinto had always had a major influence in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Most recent version was Dandadan, which has basically you're basically taking the powers of anime and god and use anime and gods and using it to fight cryptids,
Mm-hmm.
And
ghosts, or
aliens.
yeah, and aliens. Yes.
Yeah, but also like, although and like from let's briefly go back to Buddhism. It also like taught, like brought teachings on not just the sutras. Hinduism does that as well, but
Hmm.
it also teaches, like Buddhism teaches people like the meaning of essentially of reaching enlightenment as well as detachment, and not detachment from like from people, but detachment of material possessions. Essentially, it teaches people to not be so attached to to anything that they have in their possessions, but be appreciative with what they have.
Mm.
It reminds me of one of the stories that they had in I don't know if it was supposed to be one of those puzzle stories that the more you thought about, the more your brain broke. But it was basically two monks at a river, and there's this beautiful lady in there. She basically looks like their version of Jessica Rabbit. So this monk is like, hop on my back, and she carries him across the river and comes right back. And the other guy's like, dude, what did you do? You let a beautiful woman touch you. And he's like, yeah, and you're letting the beautiful woman stay on your mind.
Yeah.
There's also a bunch of Zen stories too, and those are kind of fun. They had one that was a guy wanted to learn the secrets of Zen, and the guy decided, "Oh, I'll just pour you a cup of tea. Remember to say when." And the guy was like, "Okay," and he kept it pouring and going until it went over the cup and onto the floor. I was like, "Wait, stop, stop!" And he's like, "You didn't say when." Or they had one where the guy, and this one's a good point of Lego material possessions. Guy tries to rob this dude's house. So what does he do? He gives him the shirt off his back, the things under a rug somewhere, and this guy didn't have much. And and the guy ends up probably like leaving the stuff at the door and left because he's weirded out. And the dude's sitting there and probably his nothings, looking up at the moon. He's like, "Wow, I wish I had the moon. I could have given that guy the moon."
I mean, heck, yeah, like Osamu Tezuka, like he did a manga series that showcased the origin of Buddha, but while also was like educating readers of the tenets of Buddhism.
Hmm. There was also Marcus Aurelius, who he's pro. I think he was one of the guys that Stoics study, and it's funny because it's like, where do you get all this wisdom? Well, I read some dead dude's diary.
And yet those dead dudes just like have showcased to have timeless value and are more remembered than most of
I am your
today's
king. Well, I didn't vote for you. You don't vote for kings.
fiction
Well,
and
how did you become
nonfiction.
king then? The Lady of the Lake, her arm clad in the purest shimmer of samite, held aloft Excalibur from the bosom of the waters, signified by divine providence that I, Arthur, was carrying Excalibur. That is why I am your king. Listen, strange woman lying in ponds distributing swords is no basis for a system of government. Supreme executive power derives from a mandate from the masses, not from the farcical, the farcical aquatic ceremony.
Mm.
Well,
Can we go back to
since you decided to interrupt, would you like to share with the class what you quoted?
Monty Python?
But aside from religion, which I'm sure there's a whole wealth of topic to discuss there, probably best for another time and with oh, probably certain people who would love to sink their teeth into that. Or there is another aspect that's more in our modern world that through mostly written communication has influence, and this communication goes with Dom's use of creativity and imagining to add some flair or sensationalism. Sometimes, well, no, not sometimes, a lot of times leaning into it being propagandist, that being the press corps, the news, the
Mm-hmm.
paper, and how that's affected us societally wise in many countries through the for what they've put in as urgent news and articles about so and so or whatever scandal.
Clickbait.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What else? What also like showcasing some good news. Like what this person did or this event that occurred either like in your local area or from somewhere outside of America.
yep. But it's had its effects in making certain individuals or groups look like the most evilest thing
Or the
and
most
swaying
innocent.
people's image to that. Yeah.
George Floyd.
The head
Yeah,
made them look like saints. Yep.
and also Mother Teresa.
Mm.
True.
But she didn't get buried in a golden casket.
She did help a lot of kids
Hmm.
when
Well, the
she was
thing
building
is,
orphanages and
you
stuff.
also gotta keep in mind the written communication and how it changed perception of people as well. When you
Mm-hmm.
when you look into the media, again, as we like to reference a lot, we have we have two. There's two sides to the story, or two sides of the title of the story. You change the title, and people are grafting themselves into it right then and there.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
You
there's
know, you got
also the third side, which is truth with a capital T.
And you can usually find the truth by looking at both sides.
Hmm. And
but
also I see like how the little T truths corresponded with capital T truth.
first they changed the language.
And then they didn't like it, so they decided to do their own with their own version of the written language. A- And I'm sorry, I have found the news to be extremely biased because you can tell which person they're trying to kiss.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Like, right?
They
But
they make it no secret who they want to suck, duck, and fuck with.
what also makes it really funny is what happens after certain events, because you can tell when they've decided to go full ham.
Hmm.
The newest Budweiser commercial is a good version of that written communication. They
or
took a
Jack or Jaguar,
well, yeah,
which is visual and written communication.
true, but it also had two themes to it. The okay, according to the woke, and yes, this thing has probably been supposed to be self-awareness, but it is basically been a brutalized term to describe someone being dumb. If you look at the bridge and the DEI stuff, they're like, okay, here's your target audience. What are you selling? Who are you providing it for? Okay, scrap all that. How are you going to provide that to everybody? And it's like, that's dumb. And the first thing they did with the Jaguar commercial is they took out the car and then just left a bunch of supermodels in there. I will I will admit they did good in actually having supermodels in there, not just some uh, social media star that was stuffed into a toilet paper dress.
Hmm. Yeah, you're not
But
wrong.
the thing that had happened is everyone got confused and didn't see what the car was for. The outfits were supposed to mimic the colors of the car, but since they didn't have the car, it wasn't in there. Budweiser, since their marketing head, who poo-pooed on having hot babes in there and all that stuff, she's gone now. And they went full hand. They took basically the guy from the beer commercial, and he accidentally ended up in the perfume commercial, and it is hilarious. And the guy that was supposed to be in the perfume commercial ended up in the beer commercial, and he's eating hot wings and screaming like a sports fan at a game.
That's hilarious.
Yes, and it's funny, but it's also sad because I found out about it from an anti woke video,
Since
which
we're
was
talking about
which was
advertisements
sad. Yeah.
and we're talking about written communication, think on it like this. What are some of the older slogans that you remember in a lot of the fast food joints, basically any business place of business. You know the The McDonald's, I'm loving it, or the military, specifically I believe it was it the army? Be all that you can be.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The few, the proud, the Marines.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
You, the proud
The
Marine, to be all that you can be.
be all that you can be. I used to love hearing that. Or Larry H. Parker, I'll fight for you.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Coca-Cola, open happiness.
Yep.
Hmm.
Or or heck, even even like Smokey the Bear. Yeah.
Only you can prevent forest fires. Now changed to wildfires.
Mm-hmm.
Oh hey, any PSA, right?
Yep.
You can learn a
Yep.
lot from a dummy. Buckle your safety belt.
Or heck, I remember this one from Saved by the Bell. There's no hope with dope. And when they did an episode like on drugs, and well, not just drugs, but essentially drug addiction.
Mm-hmm.
Or heck, like another, even though it's not really a slogan, but a warning. How yet it's simple. Don't drink. Don't drink the Kool Aid.
Let's see, what was the other one? Oh, Viagra. When you get hard, stay hard. I actually said that in economics class, and the teacher was trying to hit his head literally on the dry erase board to concentrate for class. And
What
sadly,
possessed you to
it.
say that in class?
Well, he said, "What's the first commercial slogan you could think of?" And I'm kind of dumb when it came to economics at the time, so I said the first thing I'd seen off of a Newgrounds cartoon. When you get hard, stay hard.
Oh,
And it was a flash animation of a raccoon. He found a bottle of Viagra on the floor. He's popping those pills like they're candy. Then a truck comes in, and the truck is now in two because the raccoon was harder than the truck.
oh no!
Newgrounds, the gift that keeps on giving.
But even YouTube had a catchy tagline before it went corporate.
Mm. And same with like gaming when that was booming. Like PS1 had what was it? Whenever or wherever or whenever wherever forever.
Yes.
When,
Nintendo's or Sega's iconic Sega does what Nintendo don't.
yeah, I remember the PS2 one. Live in your world, play in ours.
Yep.
Or Nintendo Wii. We would like to play.
Mm.
I remember that.
Or my favorite, the DS. Touching's good.
I'm surprised that got past the censors.
Yes.
I remember saying that in a Yahoo Messenger one time when people did not know what the Nintendo DS was. In its, fir-
Oh!
in its first launch, I
Dang.
straight up said the slogan "Touching is good," and they was like, "I don't think I want that." I was like, "I don't know," but that's what it said in the commercial. Make of that what you will. God, they got away with lots. Oh,
Evie, hey. Oh, welcome to the Real Millennials.
it's been a long
Hello.
time.
At
It's been
first you
such
had
a
the
long time.
Pringles. Once you pop, you can't
Nope.
stop.
Oh, I love
Oh
that line.
yeah,
Once
yeah, I remember that one.
Twix, it's all in the mix.
Yep,
And of course, you go for school, the whole dare thing, and they do the anti-drug stuff. Say no to dope.
yep.
Oh, they missed a perfect line. They could have said, "Say nope to dope."
Nope, nope.
Nope to dope.
Oh my goodness, such good lines back in the days.
Yeah, ads back then were not only creative, but they were fun and memorable as well.
Oh, who could
Uh,
forget the plastic family that ran on big giant batteries?
Wow. Huh. Oh,
The father
that's
did
an
not want to listen to the mother-in-law prattle all the time, so she replaced his Duracell battery with one of their competitors.
well, that's another oldie but goodie.
or hey, how about the written communication in nursery rhymes?
Mm.
Oh yeah.
Pop Goes the Weasel was a song that was written about weaving.
Hmm.
And the part
Or
that's used for the weaving is called the weasel.
or or another one. Ring around the rosy.
I think you
Oh,
just
kiss for the
enlightened
posies.
everybody. Humble. I don't think I ever knew that.
That's my mom's favorite factoid, and she knits.
Wasn't
Hmm.
the ring around the rosy something made around the plagues, and that's why ashes, ashes, we all fall down. Something
Yep.
about death and all that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, it was one of the it was either one of the things the kids made up to make fun of their to have fun at their situation, since well kids don't really know any better, and or something the moms or their caretakers told the kids to try and make it an easier to swallow thing that they're basically surrounded by dead bodies.
Yeah. What? But the history of how Pop Goes the Weasel came to be. I actually learned about that years ago between middle school and high school.
Peter, Peter, Pumpkin, Peter.
My favorite one is the blackbirds baked into a
Oh my
pie.
god.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh my god. I think I figured out what Peter, Peter, Pumpkin Eater really meant.
Okay, enlighten us.
It's talking about his wife's ashes.
Oh,
Think about it. Had a wife but couldn't keep her. He put her in the pumpkin shell, and there he kept her very well.
Mm-hmm.
I was
Yep.
like, he's talking about his. They're talking about his dead. Oh, his wife is dead. Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
that's
Morbid,
I
isn't
heartbreaking.
it?
I like that one a little bit better than the creepy version of a guy who kept his tiny wife in an actual pumpkin. 1950s, everybody, ain't it magical?
hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like the. I used to, as a kid, I used to thought that that's what they meant. He literally put his wife in a cupboard, and she was safe and sound, I guess, in my twisted mind. But here I am as an adult, finally figuring it out. They're talking about an urn full of her ashes.
Yeah,
Yep.
well,
Man,
I want to say like your mind was twisted. You were innocent.
no,
Before the furry.
I just tend to take things a bit too literal at times. Like I said, remember that y'all know that one Tex Avery cartoon where the salesman that dies and goes to heaven. And they
Yeah,
Oh
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
you spoke
yeah,
in
yeah. I
nothing but
remember that one.
idioms. I love that one.
Me
oh
too.
my goodness, and plus what was funny was the angels were so they were so behind the times of the slang and spoken language of that time, right? That they had to they literally had to get a book to translate what he was saying, and it literally is nothing at all how he's describing.
Yeah.
It's like
Funny how
in
that
the,
kind of reflects our time right now.
mhm.
Oh yeah, like
Just we ain't dead yet.
please, like like
That was
most of
by
today's
far
like
one of my favorite
lingo is just
episodes.
it just comes off as what the heck are you talking about?
That is by far one of my favorite episodes of
I've
Text
had a
Avery.
I got to have a reverse of that the other day because this one kid I was like, well, what story are you writing? I'm like, Cyberpunk. And he's like, oh, I love that TV show. And I'm like, yeah, I was getting to the books like Neuromancer or Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. And he's like, I haven't gotten that far in the TV show yet. And he was
Or
talking
Snow
about
Crash,
Cyberpunk 2077.
Of course.
of
Edge
course,
runners.
Edge Runners.
Yeah, Cyberpunk Edge Runners.
I'm sure somebody who heard me talk about the nursery rhymes is probably gonna correct me. I'm all for it because I'm willing to learn something new.
And
But
it's
that,
free engagement.
Oh yeah, you can actually find like a book of the nursery rhymes like in archive.
I mean, back to Beowulf briefly. It's the first time I ever heard somebody, spoke about breathing fire in such a way that I was like, wow. You have phrases like belch fire or breathe fire. No, somebody literally said vomiting up fire in Beowulf. I was like, huh, that is a unique way of saying breathing fire. So,
But they're not
so with me
lying.
eyes, so with me eyes, I did vomiting fire.
Man, that makes my abs hurt just thinking about it.
hmm
Although that would be funny. Like let's change it to vomit, and then you get all the Godzilla fans like, we love the atomic puke.
The part there was one I had that was funny when they were doing a storyline from some sci-fi thing somewhere, and he's like, "Well, what do you think of the person?" Well, first he was raring smoke and farting flames, and then they were acting way too tame, and he was talking about someone's attitude. And I know it wasn't supposed to be a mystery story, but it kind of did ended up being a mystery story. And then it went off the rails because that was how that story was designed to do it. But that part stood out to me.
I bet. Yeah, I'm just so over the today's way of speaking and writing for that matter.
And we're getting into the text speaking and shit too. Or they're
Mm,
Oh
trying to make that a
God.
thing.
Yeah,
Oh my
they're
goodness.
trying so hard to make it
I
a thing.
remember I remember Gandhi making fun of that in Symbiotic Titan
Yes, he
time.
did, and
And
I was
man,
laughing my butt off when he did that. Like
man, I
he
was hoping
gets
he
it.
was predicting that. I really was hoping he wasn't predicting that. But here we are. Look, the only
Please.
abbreviated phrase I will ever say is TTFN, Tata for now.
Mm-hmm.
And only because I love Tigger, but Eeyore will always be my personal favorite.
Oh, Winnie the Pooh. And you can't go wrong. You really can't go wrong with that series.
Now that was also a series, both book and cartoon wise, where I really did
book,
love the way how they
movie,
talked.
cartoon.
So you like somebody pinning you in the ass, Wolf?
I'm just saying I like the way how they talk,
Oh,
Yeah, no, but
especially
it
Tigger.
does tie in like how writers was bringing characters back then, not just giving them personality, but also how they speak to each other. So because it helps make them distinct from one another. Nowadays, nowadays, if you notice when you find when you see some people how they write characters, bandits, they tend to sound the same and not really distinct.
Oh, the wonderful thing about Tigers is Tigers are wonderful things. The tops are made of rubber. The bounds are made of springs. They bouncy, tossy, flouncy, pouncy, fun, the fun for fun. But the most wonderful thing about Tigers is I'm the only one.
There was one story. Okay, I have been listening to something trenches. TREN trench.
While she's looking for that, I got another saying that I liked in literature. We are of one blood, you and I.
Hmm.
The Jungle Book.
No, no, no. That's what they. All right. Oh, not a bad choice.
I really do need to track down the original book so I can actually read that to check off a bucket list. Check off
Okay.
to check off the bucket list.
Okay, I found it. The one that had some modern, really good writing was Rust in Trenches by the YouTuber Monster Garden.
Hmm.
And there was another one with well, every once in a while the YouTuber did like these little short stories in between doing this designing this magic system and all these different armies. And it's fascinating. You've got your horror, you've got your magic systems, and the most popular thing ended up being a unique version of dwarf.
Hmm.
Yeah, you got that.
And
That's
how
true.
did they describe the dwarf that made him so unique from the casual ones?
Yeah, tell
Uh,
us.
the dwarves were okay. The dwarves they what Monster Garden wanted to do with the dwarves was wanted to keep the elements, but also turn into something different.
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, these dwarves have like an exoskeleton, and when they're sleeping, they kind of look like a little pot with a big nose.
That is very nice.
Yes, and one of the things that they tended to do was they had like these intricate little designs carved into their shells. Look it up; it's a see it to believe it kind of thing.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And my one of my other favorite themes was the witch hunters because they have curses that twist their bodies into all kinds of interesting ways.
Huh.
They're still humanoid, but you might have one guy that probably has like beehives for eyes.
I think Naruto did that first, didn't they?
Well, I can say that when Demon Slayer decided to have Muzan be the giant baby in one of the boss battles, it ended up being something straight out of Akira.
Hmm.
It's like, great, we have 1920s Akira baby. And it's the size of an armored truck.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yes, evil Michael Jackson, the giant baby.
I will say that even though like Demon Slayer, it has its issues as well. Well, like people tend to overhype it. It does. Like, it's not a terrible series because like the mangaka like does a good job in writing the characters as they not only how they act but also how they communicate with each other like in the Taisho era of Japan.
The characters are what actually keep the story together.
That's true.
which is a little bit different than Freerin, which is the story that's keeping the characters together. I kind of got into it a little bit recently, and that's like the first thing I've noticed is like Fruin's the main character, but the main thing she's ended up doing is having to connect with people. Like she was, she's she's one of those immortal elves, and all her friends turn out to age faster than her.
Mm-hmm. In her journey in life, she learns the value. She well not only learns but appreciates the value of meaningful connections. Like even only with others like who don't possess as that immortal lifespan as her. Along with like acknowledging feelings and like how she felt like about her friends as well as like the man left from her party who she realized, albeit late that she was in love with him.
Mm-hmm.
On on top of that, there is the overarching narrative involving demons.
Oh, the demons make a perfect antagonist for Freeman. She's out there to make connections, the and those demons are like, I don't give a furky toodle.
Yeah, and it's just hilarious how some people in our current generation they're willing to fight tooth and nail to defend the demons, even though they are established to be evil.
It is a very hard thing to learn at when reading different stories is that yes, in some portrayals the demons are lovers. They're sort of like Blitzo and Stolas is your soap opera couple.
Hmm,
Because I hate to say this, Blitzo is not nice to Stolas, and Stolas, I hate to say, I liked it when the pilot episode when he was so thirsty for him, half of his pickup lines were just nothing but beeps. And
yeah,
Demon Slayer, all the demons had a tragic backstory, but it was no excuse for their deeds.
mm-hmm.
Freyrin's demons are the classic demons of old, which they aren't supposed to connect with people. They look like people to connect you to drag you to hell.
Yeah,
Or at least
something like
that's the Christian version.
I mean, not just the Christians, but also like other like religions like have like similar stories
Oh, yeah,
that are comparative like on how demons are how they conduct themselves.
true.
And well, yes, while there are actually examples of good demons like in like folklore and religious texts, more often than not, they are the exceptions, not the rule.
That is true. Hellboy, for example, is the exception and not the rule.
That's true. If you ask me
Or
like
Dante.
people are. Oh
Mm,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and that's actually a nice transition. Transition to pretty much people are aching for a not just a return to form, not just in our culture in the West, but in storytelling. Like they want to see classic heroes and villains, good versus evil, back in the forefront. They've gotten tired of the postmodernism and moral relativism nonsense,
well,
and like those two have severely affected written communication.
ooh, yeah. Postmodernism, the closest art project I could think of that reflected it perfectly was parking a car in a parking lot and pouring asphalt over the top.
Another example that reflects it is Pollock's splattered paintings.
True, And then probably, I don't know, when was Jackson Pollock born exactly? Okay, well, let's just say some long old time later, uh, another artist who I follow on a comic has basically compared that time of the month to a Jackson Pollock painting. She's like, well, there goes a good pair of underwear. Yuck.
Hmm.
Mm.
And that's lady humor for you. And that stuff's messy, but let's just say the best thing for that is usually dark chocolate, peppermint, and whipped cream.
Mm.
Because if that's one way to get someone off of the you won't mind the day I've had, mention a favorite treat and they will shift conversations immediately.
What percentage of dark chocolate would you say?
Hmm. My poison of choice was 60,
Oh,
Oh,
He has a
good
nice
balance, sweet and
ways.
bitter.
yeah.
especially since the whipped cream's sweet and you're adding basically the crumbled remains of a candy cane into it with like marshmallows and stuff, and that's good for it. Lowers blood pressure, and it's supposed to have one of those happy chemicals in it. Lowers blood pressure and something else.
Endorphins, cortisol.
Polyphenol chemical. And yeah, I think it's an endorphin booster of sorts. Yeah, welcome to Witten Communication. It is anything but normal.
We are reaching the end anyway. Sounds like we're running out of steam. So guess
Well,
we'll.
what? Well, well, not yet. So, with this new, no, with this new year, New Year, like, and how like things are experiencing a return to form. Well, like, what are your guys' hopes? Hopes of like how of written communication, and what can people what can we expect?
Mhm.
Real like realistic expectations.
I just want the old guard to start schooling and build up mentorships to train any of our generations to write properly and learning when to just let go of the ones that are not there to learn but there to try to teach the teacher instead, which makes you question like what you're in school in the first place if you're trying to if you're challenging the teacher in a course that's not really made for whatever field you're going for, or rather I'm just hoping that the public education system is going to heal itself at some point where
The public education system has been imperfect for centuries.
yeah,
Yeah,
to where we could finally get kids and people to write write better, write communication better at this point, and that's a big ask at this point because it's done so much damage now.
Mm,
I hope that our new generation is going to come to realize that this new education system has screwed them over, and rather than living in sadness and grief, they do everything they can to learn the things that they weren't that they weren't allowed to learn or let alone were given the tools to. Hopefully,
realistically, we have had a lot of newer writers come into the fold. I will say what I do like is we've had a lot more indie stuff instead of
Hmm.
just the mainstream stuff.
Yeah, and also like those new, also like some of these new young bloods like they have not drunken the Kool Aid, you know, and also they actually appreciate what came before, for while also like not making their materials like modern to the point it dates itself.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Looking at you, Owl House.
Yeah, we're still bummed by all the bad stuff that came before.
I forgot most of the bad stuff that came before.
I mostly want to ignore it and just move on to what is actually working for me.
Yeah, yeah, that's so lame. Like members like of Gen Z and Gen Alpha, like they're stumbling onto like older media, not just in films and gaming, but also in in write in writing in fiction and nonfiction writing as well. Well, I
Oh,
realized that they're missed up. Realized that why weren't we exposed to these again?
the part I was having fun with was someone that was putting pulp fics onto webnovel.com. You've got fanfic, 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 Princess of Mars, fanfic, 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 fanfic.
Jesus.
Wow.
The other version has been the lit RPGs, but the one I do like playing the ads on has been the Royal Road app because you actually get memes instead of ads.
Hmm, you don't say.
You don't say.
What about you, Dark?
Well, what about me?
Ask him, Dom.
I know. What am I hoping for? Uh, oh, it's hard to think about anything like that when all I really just want is prices coming down again. But in
Don't
written
we all?
communications, just just pretty much good stories. That's really it. Like I'm not gonna set a bar too high. Just actually learn how to make a good story with good characters. You can learn from the old guard. You can strike it on your own by learning from what worked, what didn't. But yeah, just make good things that people want to read, that will read.
Mm-hmm. That they want to read it.
Hmm.
Hmm.
What about you, Dom?
Following up on what these two have said so far. And of course, you, our fearless leader, just bring.
Until he sees a spider.
Fuck off.
And like bring, like put meritocracy back to the forefront. But, and yeah, like the generation members of these generations, like they can actually learn from each other instead of being against one another, or think like one knows better than the other, because they do have common interests in spite of their differences. Oh yeah, at the end of the day, people want to not only good stories again, but also they need to learn like how to write, how to talk to each other, even like writing stories to communicate with their audiences. Audiences like they need to learn from the old guard and be able to do that again.
I'm almost hoping, in a way, even though it would mean a loss of a lot of things, but I wouldn't mind a Escape from LA ending where, oh, EMP, now we're back to writing letters and stuff.
like like email definitely has definitely like the natural evolution like of writing letters, but 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 people still write letters the old fashioned way.
Mm,
We just like it's our jobs to make sure it doesn't become a lost art.
mm.
It never will be.
I
It
guess like
won't because you have the historical writers and they want to write their saucy love stories.
Yes, the romantics. Everybody wants to be a romantic.
if they know what a romantic actually is and what it means.
Oh, you have a few that do and a few that and a lot that don't. I happen to be among one of those lots that don't.
You will learn.
You'll learn.
Wink, wink.
You are young.
I
My
can
best thing
empathize
comes
with the
to you.
guy who, if a girl's nice to him, he can't tell if she's flirting with him or is friend zoned.
Oof.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody for being here. Those for you and those Nazis and motherfuckers keep popping in and out. Thank you everybody for listening to us talk written communication. Though also speaking on some other stuff that was unrelated to the topic. Hopefully that will also give you some insight to where we're headed, how we can put it all back, or at least hopefully encourage you to write with a challenge and write with a purpose.
And
So
write better.
And that's right with a W, not just the R as in
Hmm.
directional.
Yep.
it's funny, but no. Tune in next week. We will be concluding this four-parter. And going forward, we're going to be also doing our traditional thing, which is uh, how we shit on Black history,
Which is actually next Thursday.
specifically Black History Month, not the entire history, which is mostly American history, anyways, as the great Morgan Freeman put it.
Yeah. We'll be
And
touching
oh
more on that
boy,
next Thursday.
again, we got a lot to talk about. We have a
Hmm.
lot to talk about that day. I know I'm hyping it up, but we're gonna talk about it.
Also, we also have an opening that reflects it. But I'm sure like it'll get your like blood pumping and also
Negro,
your head bopping.
Uh,
you getting a little ahead of your britches, boy. Calm down.
how can you get ahead of your britches if you're already in your britches?
It's called a little thing that gets hard in morning and, it pops out. It gets out there in the head.
He knows.
Get hard, stay hard.
Oh, you went there.
Be all that you can be.
And
Anyways,
allow some Nagasaki's and Hiroshima's and your lady.
mhm. Love that chicken at Popeyes. So, the humble of the writers, humble Marty.
Hello, I'm Humble Marty. I write things and I sometimes remember some stuff that's off the wall. February 26th. February 26th, Amazon's taking down their download button. Of course, that is why I am starting to move some stuff little by little to Kobo. Kobo
Oh
has an
my.
easier download feature because my goal is to get my stuff into people's hands. My goal is not to have a platform decide to rent a wreck.
Mm.
But don't worry, my stories have wrecks in it. It's mostly wrecked vehicles, not wrecked grammar. Hopefully, but other than that, leave a review. It gives great interaction.
You put me on a spot there, and I gotta link your stuff.
I don't have
But
to. I could just stick it in the comments.
True. The Hound of the South Donic Pal.
Well, thank everyone for joining us on part three of our communication quadrilogy. Make sure you stay tuned for we'll end it with part four, audio communication. What next Thursday? Thursday, yeah, yeah, yeah. What was going to be Black History is American history, and well, as Wolf said, you know what's going to happen. So stay tuned for that. This is the House of South Dominic Powell signing off.
The Sixth Ranger, Dark Stranger.
Yo,
As you're welcome, and I will tell remind you guys once again that we definitely do have plans coming up in the future. Um, Still ruminating on when those are going to happen. I know people are already asked a few things of us for multiple years now, ever since we started this, and I've been very dragging my knees on it, but promises will be fulfilled sooner than expected. Hopefully, when I plan it out, because this year just is going to be. I feel like this year is going to be lots of curveballs heading our way.
In spite of those curveballs, well, we're going to continue keeping our heads up.
And I think at this point, some of the things that we got going on, or at least what I got planned, we probably was going to be held to the back burner for a while until we get into a more stable year in probably next year. Sadly, if we don't cover everything that we set out to do so far in the past that we always plan. I mean, hell, we managed to get to some things that was always talked about that we finally get around to. But like I said, it's whatever we're able to get up to at this point. So, if you guys want us to talk about something, share it in the comments. But I also remind you guys that you are the UN Spacey. Welcome to the
Me and my friends get no respect.